The sky of Vora burned red. Smoke covered the stars. The cities that once shined with silver towers were now broken and silent. The ground shook again and again as firestorms moved across the horizon. The Karn Dominion had come without warning, and nothing could stop them. Their fleets circled the planet like hungry beasts, cutting off all escape. The air was filled with fear, and the sound of explosions never stopped. In the command center deep underground, the last leaders of Vora stood around a flickering hollow table. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. Admiral Saran spoke softly, "We have sent every signal. No one answers." The Galactic Council closed their borders. Even our allies turned away. His voice trembled as another blast shook the walls. "We are alone." But one young officer stepped forward. Her name was Rin. Her uniform was torn, her hands burned, yet her eyes still held fire. "There is one frequency left," she said. "Old, forgotten. It belongs to the humans." The room went silent. The word human carried mystery and fear. Many in the galaxy thought they had vanished long ago, retreating to their small blue planet near Sol. Others said they destroyed themselves in ancient wars. Saran frowned. "Humans? That is a myth. They do not answer anyone." Rin looked at him. "Maybe. But myths are all we have left." With a trembling hand, she activated the old transmitter. Static filled the air, followed by silence. Then she spoke, her voice filled with pain and hope. "To any who can hear this, this is planet Vora. The Karn Dominion has burned our world. We have no defense left. Please, if you hear us, help us." The signal went out into the endless dark. The officers waited, but nothing came back. Hours passed. The power core weakened. The city above them collapsed into fire. One by one, lights on the holomap died as their cities fell. Rin sat quietly, staring at the silent transmitter. "Maybe no one is left," she whispered. But far above, beyond the edge of their star system, something ancient and vast heard the cry. Aboard a silent station orbiting Earth, deep sensors came alive for the first time in centuries. An alert flashed across the human defense network. Incoming distress signal, non-human origin. Commanders gathered, listening to the desperate voice from Vora. It was a call for help. Commander Hale stood in silence for a long moment, then said, "They're being hunted." And no one answered them. The officers around him looked uncertain. Humanity had stayed silent for over 100 years, avoiding galactic wars. But Hale's next words changed everything. "We will answer." Across the solar system, ancient war factories lit up. Shipyards awoke. The sound of engines filled the void as old ships, long hidden, came back to life. The great ship Sol's Wrath powered up after a century of silence. In the darkness of space, it looked like a floating mountain, its hull covered with armor thicker than cities. Its captain, Arya Voss, watched as thousands of ships formed up behind her. "The galaxy forgot who we are," she said quietly. "It's time to remind them." Back on Vora, dawn broke weakly through the ash. The last few survivors gathered on rooftops and hills, watching the skies. The Karn warships still hung above like shadows of death. Admiral Saran stood beside Rin, watching the horizon. "If there is a god, now is the time," he muttered. Suddenly, one of the Karn ships exploded in the upper atmosphere, without warning, without fire exchange. Another followed, torn apart by something invisible. The sky rippled with blue light. Rin's scanner blinked wildly. "Something's coming," she said in disbelief. The clouds burned away as massive dark shapes descended from orbit, human warships, black and shining, stretching from one horizon to another. Each was marked with the blue crest of Earth. The air filled with a deep sound, like thunder from the stars. The Karn fleet panicked, their formation breaking. The first human dreadnought opened fire, and a Karn cruiser vanished in white flame. Rin fell to her knees, tears mixing with ash. "They came," she whispered. "They actually came." Saran looked up at the ships that now filled the sky. What kind of people answer a call from strangers? He asked softly. High above, Captain Arya Voss gave her first order. To all ships, defend Vora. No surrender. The human fleet moved like a storm made of steel. Railguns fired. Missiles streaked across the heavens. The Karn fleet that once ruled half a sector began to fall apart within minutes. For the first time in years, hope returned to Vora. As the planet survivors watched the burning sky, one message echoed across every frequency, spoken by a calm human voice. Asterisk, this is Earth Command. We received your message. Hold on, help has arrived. Asterisk, the galaxy, silent for so long, finally heard humanity speak again, and trembled. The morning sky over Vora was no longer red with fire but silver with light. The human fleet hung above the planet like a moving wall of metal. Every shadow, every line in the sky was filled with their ships, massive carriers, destroyers, and ships so large they looked like floating cities. The people of Vora stood in silence, staring at them. They had never seen such power. They had never seen such order. Above, the human fleet began to move with perfect precision, their engines glowing like small suns. Every formation, every ship had purpose. It was not an army of chaos but of control and calm strength. The Karn commanders watching from their own ships were confused. Their scanners could not count the number of human vessels. The signal traffic was silent. No panic. No mistakes. Just a quiet, focused force. Admiral Saran and Officer Rin stood on the edge of the ruins, staring up. They came for us, Saran whispered. They really came. Rin's eyes filled with tears. And now the galaxy will remember who the humans are. High above, on the bridge of the dreadnought Soul's Wrath, Captain Arya Voss watched the enemy formation unfold. The Karn had regrouped into defensive lines, using the planet's orbit as a shield. They still think this is a normal war, Arya said quietly. Her second-in-command, Commander Hale, looked at the holomap and nodded. They don't understand who they're facing. Arya raised her hand. Let's teach them. The first human strike began without warning. Massive beams of pure kinetic force tore through the void. The leading Karn battleships vanished into white fire, their hulls breaking apart as if made of glass. The human fleet advanced slowly, each ship firing in calm sequence, cutting through the enemy like blades through mist. For every Karn shot, 10 came back. Within minutes, the Karn's outer ring of defense was gone. Across Vora's sky, the flashes of battle looked like storms of light. The ground shook with every impact. But this time, it was not the sound of defeat, it was the sound of hope. In the Karn command vessel Dominion's Wrath, their general roared in disbelief. Impossible! They are primitives. Their technology was outdated a century ago. His officers said nothing. Their faces were pale. The data screens showed their fleet dying faster than they could react. The human ships did not jam signals. They did not boast. They did not speak. They simply destroyed. Then, for the first time, a human transmission broke through the static. It was a woman's voice, calm and sharp as a blade. This is Captain Arya Voss of the Terran fleet. You attacked a world that called for help. You will now answer for it. The general shouted, You think we will surrender to lesser beings? Arya's voice remained steady. No. I expect you to burn. Seconds later, her fleet fired a synchronized volley. The Karn flagship split in half. Silence filled the channel. Back on the surface, Rin and Saran watched the battle unfold like a dream. Human dropships broke through the clouds, bringing medical teams, food, and soldiers to help the wounded. Even as the war raged above, humans worked below, lifting debris, treating the dying, comforting the terrified. They fight and heal at the same time, Rin whispered. How can anyone do both? Saran looked at her. Because they remember what loss feels like. Hours passed, and the last of the Karn ships tried to retreat. But the humans did not chase them. Instead, Arya ordered, Let them run. They will tell the others what they saw. The surviving Karn vessels limped away, their communications filled with fear. Throughout the sector, the word spread quickly: the humans are back. In the ruins of Vora's capital, Rin approached a human officer who was directing relief teams. His armor was scratched and burned, but his eyes were calm. "Why did you come?" she asked him. The officer looked at her for a long moment. "Because someone asked for help," he said simply. "That's enough." His answer spread among the survivors like light through darkness. When night came, the fires of battle were gone. The stars returned, but most were hidden behind the great shape of the human fleet still in orbit. It covered half the sky, a shield made of steel and courage. Children pointed upward, calling them the stars that moved. Rin smiled for the first time in days. Humanity had not only saved their world, they had changed it. On the bridge of Sol's Wrath, Captain Arya Voss watched the silent planet below. Reports came in, victory confirmed, casualties minimal, the enemy fleeing. But Arya's face stayed serious. "They will come back," she said. Commander Hale nodded. "Yes. And next time, they'll bring everything they have." Arya turned to the stars beyond. "Then we'll be ready." A message was sent across all open frequencies, reaching every world within range. It was short, but it would never be forgotten. "To all who hear this, Earth stands with those who cannot stand alone." Across the galaxy, governments listened. Some felt relief. Others felt fear. The sleeping giant had awoken, and the stars themselves seemed smaller now. Back on Vora, Admiral Saran stood beneath the night sky, the silver light of the human fleet reflecting in his eyes. "They didn't just send an army," he said softly. "They sent a promise." Rin looked up beside him, whispering, "And a warning." Far above, the fleet began to move again, forming new lines as it prepared to leave orbit. But before they disappeared into the stars, one last transmission reached Vora's surface, a calm voice, the same as before: "You are safe now. We'll be watching." Humanity never turns away from hope. And with that, the ships rose higher and higher until the night sky looked empty again. But the people of Vora knew better. Somewhere out there, beyond the clouds and fire, the humans still watched, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The battle for Vora was over, but the silence that followed was heavy and strange. The air still carried the smell of smoke and metal, and the broken cities whispered of lives lost. Human engineers walked through the ruins, scanning for survivors, their white armor glowing in the dim light. Wherever they went, they brought water, medicine, and quiet comfort. The people of Vora had never seen soldiers who looked like this, machines of war who spoke gently to the weak. Above the planet, the human fleet remained in orbit, their ships still watching, scanning the stars for danger. Yet inside those ships, the crew knew one thing: this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Captain Arya Voss stood before a glowing display on the bridge of Sol's Wrath. Red marks covered the nearby star systems, distress signals, all from worlds near Vora. Commander Hale frowned. "The Karn didn't only attack here. They're burning everything in this region." Arya looked at him. "And no one's helping them." The silence between them was answer enough. Arya turned back to the screen. "Then we will." Her voice was calm, but her crew felt the weight in it. They had come to save one world. Now, they would save many. On the surface, Rin watched as human medics worked through the night. She helped where she could, lifting rubble and giving food. She saw how the humans treated even alien children like their own. "They don't see difference," she whispered. Admiral Saran nodded beside her. "They see need." A young human soldier smiled at them, handing a small alien boy a ration pack and patting his head. "Eat. You're safe now," he said in a soft voice. For the first time in generations, hope did not feel like a dream, it felt real. Days passed, and the humans rebuilt what little they could before preparing to leave. When the fleet began to move again, half of Vora's population came out to watch. The sky filled with light as the warships climbed higher. To many, it felt like watching gods depart. But before the ships jumped to warp, a message was broadcast across the planet, spoken by Captain Arya herself. Vora, you are not alone. We will end this storm. For every world that still burns, we are coming. The message spread far beyond the planet, reaching ships, traders, and even frightened colonies across the sector. The name, humanity, once forgotten, now spread like fire through the void. When the human fleet reached the next system, what they saw was worse than they imagined. A planet called Kether was half destroyed, its oceans boiling, its cities silent. The Karn had left behind nothing but ash. But there were survivors, thousands of them trapped underground, starving, weak. Arya ordered immediate landings. We're not leaving anyone, she said. Human marines descended through the smoke, fighting off the last Karn patrols still on the surface. The rescue operation lasted 2 days. When it ended, the survivors cried and called them angels of iron. But the humans didn't call themselves heroes. To them, it was duty. As they continued from one system to another, more and more voices joined them. The survivors of Kether joined the humans as engineers, medics, and translators. Word spread that the humans were building something new. Not an empire but an alliance of the broken. In every place they went, they brought the same message: no more silence. No more fear. Back in the deep command halls of the Karn Dominion, rage filled the air. The Emperor of Karn listened to his general's reports. Humans, he repeated. I thought they were extinct. The generals trembled. They were silent for centuries, my lord. Now they burn everything we send. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then we will burn them back. Send the armadas. I want their stars to go dark. Across the galaxy, thousands of Karn ships began to move. The storm was coming again. On Sol's Wrath, the humans intercepted transmissions from fleeing merchants. Karn fleets were gathering. Commander Hale looked at the data. They're coming, Arya. A full invasion force. Arya didn't flinch. Good. Then we don't have to search for them. The crew smiled, their hands steady on their controls. They had seen what Karn cruelty did. None of them wanted to hide. Meanwhile, on Vora, Rin and Saran were helping rebuild their cities when the message arrived, a single coded signal from Earth Command. It said only one thing: evacuate the outer colonies. Human fleet is engaging. Rin looked up at the sky, her heart pounding. She knew the humans would fight again, but this time the battle would decide everything. Aboard Sol's Wrath, Arya stood at the window, watching stars slide past as her fleet jumped through hyperspace. Her voice was quiet, but every crew member heard her words over the intercom. We are not fighting for conquest. We are fighting for the voices that called for help and were never heard. We fight for the fallen. Her speech traveled through the fleet, filling hearts with fire. In the hangars, soldiers checked their weapons. In the med bays, doctors prepared for the wounded. Every man and woman knew what they were risking. But no one turned away. At the edge of the next system, they came out of hyperspace, and there it was. A Karn invasion fleet, massive and terrifying, surrounding a dying planet. Without waiting for orders, human ships formed their lines. Captain Arya gave the command. For Vora. For Kether. For every voice that still calls for help. The human fleet roared forward, weapons blazing. Space filled with light and death, and the war began again. As the battle raged, one last broadcast echoed across the stars. It came from a Karn officer on a distant relay station. His voice was shaking as he spoke into the recorder. If anyone hears this, the humans are not what we thought. They fight like fire, but they heal like light. They are not here for glory. They are here because we made others cry for mercy, and they answered. His words ended in static. Back on Earth, deep beneath the oceans, the High Command listened to the growing reports from the frontier. A quiet voice broke the silence. We woke up late, the officer said. But we woke up right. And in the darkness between the stars, the fleet of humanity kept moving, following the voices of the fallen, bringing fire and hope wherever they went. The stars burned with the light of war. Across the edge of the Orion sector, the Karn Dominion's armada moved like a wave of death. Thousands of ships, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a world. Their orders were simple: crush the humans, burn their allies, and make the galaxy fear the Karn name again. But this time, something was different. The galaxy was no longer silent. Dozens of alien species that had once hidden in fear now whispered one name with awe and trembling: humanity. And as the Karn fleets advanced, they found human ships already waiting. In the command chamber of the massive human dreadnought Soul's Wrath, Captain Arya Voss stood tall, staring at the holographic map glowing in red and blue. The enemy fleet was 10 times larger. Commander Hale looked uneasy. "We're outnumbered," he said quietly. Arya didn't look away. "Then we'll fight smarter." Her voice was calm, but behind her eyes burned the fire of someone who refused to bow. "Send the order to all ships," she said. "We stand here. No retreat." The message echoed across every human vessel. The men and women aboard those ships felt their fear melt away. For them, it wasn't about numbers, it was about promise. They were the line that would not break. As the Karn ships came into range, the stars vanished behind their massive hulls. On the planet below, the refugees and rescued species watched the sky fill with darkness again. Children cried. Priests prayed. And then, from the heart of the human fleet, a single signal flashed, a pattern of blue light. It was the mark of Earth Command. The first wave of human warships opened fire. The silence of space exploded into chaos. The human railguns fired slugs at near light speed, tearing through enemy armor as if it were paper. The newer Karn ships tried to respond, but human targeting systems were faster, colder, and more precise. Missiles danced through the void like streaks of lightning. Drones deployed from carriers swarmed forward in massive formations, overwhelming the Karn defenses. Within minutes, the battle turned from an invasion into a massacre. But the Karn were relentless. More ships arrived, surrounding the human fleet from all directions. Their leader, Grand Admiral Vethar, sneered from his command bridge. "Crush them. End this joke of hope," he growled. Arya's ship shook as the enemy fire intensified. Flames burst across several decks. Commander Hale shouted, "Shields failing on the right flank." Arya steadied herself. "Redirect power from non-essential systems. The line must hold." Her voice echoed through the comms, calm and firm, and every ship followed her command. Human vessels began to shift formation, creating a spinning defensive pattern. The fleet turned chaos into harmony, each ship covering the other, every move like a single heartbeat. The Karn realized too late that they weren't fighting desperate survivors, they were fighting warriors of order and will. Far from the front, Rin and Admiral Saran watched from a surface command post on the newly liberated world of Kether. The battle above painted the night sky in color, red, blue, and gold streaks flashing like storms in space. Rin's voice trembled. "They're surrounded." Saran didn't blink. "They know that." She looked at him. "Then why don't they run?" Saran smiled faintly. "Because humans don't run. Not when others are watching." In orbit, the Karn unleashed their ultimate weapons, planet busters, massive plasma bombs capable of wiping out entire continents. As the bombs launched, alarms filled the human fleet. Commander Hale shouted, "They're targeting the surface." But Arya already had the answer. "Activate the Aegis net," she commanded. Dozens of human cruisers repositioned themselves, linking energy fields to form a glowing blue shield around the planet. The plasma bombs hit the barrier and exploded in blinding light, but the planet remained safe. The refugees watching below saw the shield glowing like a second sky. They didn't know how it worked. They only knew that humanity had saved them again. Inside the Soul's Wrath, power levels dropped dangerously. Engineers shouted over comms. "We're running out of energy, Captain." Hale turned to her. "We can't keep this up." Arya looked at the burning stars beyond and said quietly, "We don't need to. They'll break first." Her prediction was right. After hours of brutal combat, the Karn formation began to fracture. Their ships were designed to conquer, not to endure. When their command ships fell, confusion spread through their ranks. Human cruisers took advantage, pushing forward with surgical strikes. The fleet that had once covered the stars now looked broken, scattered, and afraid. As the last Karn dreadnought exploded, Arya stood in silence. Around her, the crew cheered, but she didn't smile. "We've won the battle," she said softly, "but not the war." Commander Hale frowned. "They'll keep coming." Arya nodded. "Yes. Until we stop them at the source." Her gaze shifted toward the galactic map, where a single red mark pulsed. Karn Prime, the heart of the Dominion. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than light. Every world that had once given up hope now whispered in wonder. The humans had done what no one else dared to do. They fought back and won. On dozens of planets, people looked at the night sky and whispered prayers to the stars, not to gods, but to the warriors from Earth who refused to surrender. That night, on the surface of Kether, Rin stood with Saran, watching the stars. "They fought the darkness," she said, "and turned it into light." Saran looked at her with tired eyes. "Do you think they'll ever stop?" Rin smiled faintly. "Not until everyone is safe." Far above, in the quiet bridge of Soul's Wrath, Arya watched the stars return. "Send word to Earth Command," she said. "The sector is free. But the war isn't over." She looked out the window, where the wreckage of the Karn fleet drifted like ghosts. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to Karn Prime." As the human ships began to regroup, their engines glowed bright once more, painting the darkness in silver and blue. Across the galaxy, one truth became clear: the age of silence was over. Hope had learned to fight back, and its name was humanity. The human fleet moved like a silent wave through the black ocean of space. Every ship, from the smallest fighter to the largest dreadnought, carried the same purpose: to end the war, once and for all. The stars around them grew dim as they entered the Karn Dominion's home territory. Ahead of them lay Karn Prime, the heart of a cruel empire that had enslaved half the galaxy. Its sky was covered by layers of orbital weapons, its surface glowing with the light of massive cities built on the bones of conquered worlds. Captain Arya Voss stood on the bridge of Soul's Wrath, her face calm but her voice heavy with resolve. "For every world they burned," she said quietly, "for every voice that cried and was ignored, this ends today." The crew listened in silence. There was no cheering, no shouting, only focus. They knew what was coming. This was not just a battle. It was judgment. The humans had gathered the largest armada in modern history. Thousands of ships from Earth and the colonies had joined the call. Some were old, rebuilt from forgotten wars. Others were new, forged in secret shipyards. Among them flew vessels from the rescued worlds, Voran pilots, Kether engineers, and volunteers from dozens of species who now fought under the human banner. They called themselves the Hope Fleet. Together, they moved as one, following the humans into the mouth of fire. Karn Prime was ready. Its defense grid activated, filling space with red beams of energy. Entire fleets of Karn warships waited in tight formation. The Emperor himself watched from his throne, his voice echoing through every command ship. "Let them come," he said. "Let them burn in our light." On his orders, the skies of Karn erupted. Thousands of plasma lances fired at once, turning the void into a storm of destruction. Dozens of smaller human ships were hit immediately, vanishing in bursts of light. But the human formation didn't break. Arya's voice rang across every comm channel. "Hold the line. Advance and fire at will." The human fleet returned fire, unleashing a storm the galaxy had never seen before. Railguns thundered, launching projectiles faster than thought. Beams of blue energy cut through enemy lines. The sky above Karn Prime became a glowing battlefield. Human carriers released drone swarms that moved like living waves, tearing apart the Karn fighter wings. The Hope Fleet fought beside them, their ships smaller but fierce, driven by gratitude and vengeance. In every corner of the battle, one thing became clear: the humans were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting to end the suffering. Inside the Soul's Wrath, Alarms blared as the ship took heavy fire. Commander Hale shouted over the noise, "Shields at 40%. We can't take another barrage like that." Arya gripped the rail, eyes locked on the red mass of Karn Prime ahead. "Then we finish this before they reload. Bring the fleet forward." The dreadnought engines roared as the human ships dove deeper into enemy fire. The formation tightened, a wall of steel cutting through chaos. One by one, human cruisers broke through the defensive ring. When they reached the orbit of Karn Prime, the planet's automated guns turned their fire toward them, but it was already too late. The humans had brought something new. "Activate the Titan lances," Arya ordered. From the fleet's core, enormous cannons powered up, drawing energy from the heart of the ships. A moment later, they fired. Giant beams of white light shot across space, slicing through the Karn defenses like paper. The entire orbit of the planet shook. On the surface, people looked up as the sky turned to flame. The Emperor's palace trembled as his advisors screamed. "Their weapons, impossible," he shouted. But even as his armies tried to respond, the human fleet pressed harder. The Hope fleet followed behind, pouring every shot they had into the planet's shields. Then came the order that changed everything. Arya said it softly, but her crew felt the power behind her words. "Land the Marines." Hundreds of human landing craft descended through the fire, cutting through enemy defenses. They hit the ground with force, soldiers pouring out like a storm. The streets of Karn Prime turned into battlegrounds. Human Marines fought house by house, supported by alien allies who had once been slaves there. For every building that fell, a cheer rose from the people watching across the galaxy. They were not watching an invasion, they were witnessing liberation. Arya watched the surface feeds, her heart steady. "No civilian targets," she reminded her fleet. "We fight the tyrants, not the people." Even as she spoke, she saw something she hadn't expected. Karn citizens turning against their own soldiers, helping human medics, waving white flags. The Emperor's control was breaking. His voice echoed one last time across the comms, filled with rage and disbelief. "You think you bring hope? You bring chaos. The galaxy was mine." Arya replied quietly, "Not anymore." With the final push, human forces reached the capital. A single strike from Sol's Wrath's orbital cannon broke the palace gates. Soldiers entered the throne hall, finding the Emperor standing among ruins of gold. He lifted his weapon, but before he could fire, a human marine lowered his rifle and said, "It's over." The Emperor's weapon fell from his hand. His empire, built on fear and blood, had ended. Above the planet, the remaining Karn ships surrendered. The skies went still. The storm was finally quiet. In orbit, the human fleet began to power down its weapons. Across the comm channels, voices spoke softly, some in English, some in alien tongues, but all with the same emotion, relief. Commander Hale exhaled and looked at Arya. "We did it," he said. Arya's gaze stayed fixed on the glowing planet below. "No," she said softly. "They did it. All of them." On the surface, as dawn rose over the ruins of Karn Prime, survivors came out of hiding. For the first time in their history, they saw the sky without warships. Human medics worked beside Karn civilians, tending the wounded, rebuilding shelters. Admiral Saran and Rin watched the broadcast from Vora, tears in their eyes. "They did it," Rin whispered. "They ended the darkness." Back on Sol's Wrath, Arya stood before her crew, the planet shining below them. "The war is over," she said. "But our mission isn't. We don't conquer, we rebuild." And as the fleet began its slow orbit over the freed world, the stars around them shimmered with a strange new light. For the first time in centuries, peace was not just a dream. It was real. Humanity had brought the storm, and then they brought calm. The war was over, but peace was not simple. The fall of Karn Prime had shaken the galaxy to its core. Empires that once ruled through fear were now silent, their fleets shattered, their leaders gone. Across hundreds of worlds, people looked up at the stars and whispered one name, humanity. Some spoke it with awe, others with fear, but all with respect. On Earth and the colonies, celebrations filled the skies. Cities lit up with light, and children watched the news showing alien worlds cheering under banners of hope. But in the command room of Sol's Wrath, there was no cheering. Captain Arya Voss stood before the window, watching the quiet space where fleets had once burned. "We won," Commander Hale said softly, "and yet you don't look like someone who's celebrating." Arya didn't turn. "Because victory is easy," she said. "Peace is the hard part." In the weeks that followed, humanity began something no one expected. Instead of claiming planets or demanding tribute, they sent engineers, doctors, and builders. Massive hospital ships landed on ruined worlds, bringing food and medicine. Human and alien teams worked side by side, rebuilding cities destroyed by centuries of war. The Hope Fleet, once a weapon of vengeance, became a force of healing. Admiral Saran and Rin of Vora joined the Reconstruction Council, helping humans contact worlds still afraid to emerge from hiding. On one of those planets, a Karn child looked up at a descending human shuttle and asked his mother, "Are they here to hurt us?" She smiled through tears. "No, child. They're here to help." News of this spread like fire across the stars. The idea that humans, once thought primitive, dangerous, and chaotic, were now rebuilding the galaxy confused many. The remaining council worlds gathered to discuss it. Old rulers argued that humanity was playing a trick, preparing for another war. But survivors of the Karn Empire stood up and spoke the truth. They told how humans had risked their lives to protect civilians, how their soldiers refused to fire on the weak, and how their leaders never sought to rule. "They came not as conquerors," one delegate said, "but as protectors. The galaxy owes them more than gratitude, it owes them a chance." While politicians debated, humanity kept working. On the ruins of Karn Prime, cities rose again. What was once the throne of an empire became the Hall of Unity, a massive structure built by humans and aliens together. Every race that had suffered under the old empires sent a representative. And at the heart of it all stood a single human flag, not as a symbol of dominance, but of hope. When the first meeting of the new Galactic Accord began, Arya Voss stood at the podium. Around her sat hundreds of leaders, all from different worlds. The hall fell silent as she spoke. "We do not seek control," she said. "We seek balance. No species should ever again face what we faced. No voice should go unheard. This galaxy belongs to all of us." Her words were simple, but they echoed across every broadcast channel in existence. Still, not everyone believed in peace. In the shadows of space, broken remnants of the Karn fleet gathered. Led by surviving admirals, they plotted revenge. "The humans took everything," one of them said bitterly. "They claim to be saviors, but they are the same as we were, hungry for power." They began building secret ships, hidden in the dark between stars. But humanity already knew. Drones from Sol's Wrath watched from afar, tracking their movements. When Hale reported the findings, Arya looked tired but calm. "We don't strike first," she said. "But if they threaten peace again, we'll be ready." She looked out the viewport, her reflection lit by the stars. "Hope is powerful," she whispered, "but hope without strength is fragile." Months turned into years. The galaxy slowly changed. Trade routes reopened, and worlds once isolated began to thrive again. New technologies spread: human nanomedicine, Earth agriculture, clean fusion reactors. But more important than technology was trust. Aliens who once feared humans now invited them into their homes. Schools taught the story of how Earth answered a cry for help when no one else did. Humanity became the guardians of peace, not through rule, but through example. Children on distant worlds grew up dreaming of visiting Earth, the planet that had burned for others. On a quiet night above the rebuilt city of Karn Prime, Arya walked through the Hall of Unity. Statues lined the entrance, each one representing a species that had stood together in the final war. In the center was a crystal monument inscribed with words in hundreds of languages: "We asked for aid. Humanity sent an army, a fleet, and hope." Arya touched the glass gently and smiled. Commander Hale joined her, holding a datapad. Another fleet requesting permission to join the patrol network, he said. They want to protect the trade routes under the accord. Arya nodded. Good. Let them. The more who share the burden, the stronger peace becomes. Hale smiled faintly. You really think this peace will last? Arya looked out at the stars. It will, she said. Because this time, everyone has something to lose. In that moment, a soft light filled the hall, the sunrise of Karn Prime, the first true sunrise the planet had seen in generations. The golden light touched every flag, every face, and for a heartbeat, the galaxy felt united. Across space, transmissions from countless worlds echoed the same message: we are one galaxy. We are free. Humanity had given them that gift, not through conquest, but through compassion backed by unbreakable strength. And somewhere deep in space, on the bridge of Soul's Wrath, Arya looked at the holographic map of the stars and whispered, if they ever call again, we'll answer. The engines of the great human warship glowed softly as it turned toward deep space. Behind it followed smaller ships, Vorin, Kether, and even reformed Karn vessels, now part of the same patrol fleet. Together, they moved through the void like guardians of light. The galaxy that had once been drowning in fear now carried a heartbeat of hope. And in every corner, from the smallest moon to the largest world, stories were told of the day when one cry for help reached the blue planet called Earth, and the humans answered with an army, a fleet, and something far greater than both: hope.